Welcome back to another episode of the Entry for One podcast. I'm your host, Jose Hernandez, and on this episode, we will be reviewing and discussing Sorry to Bother You, written and directed by Boots Riley. On this episode, we're joined by Aaron Cruz.
Sir, how y'all doing?
So, Sorry to Bother You is about Cassius Green, who is a guy that lives in Oakland, looking to get a job, landing a job at a telemarketing service called Regal View. He finds out that he's very good at using his white voice and soon finds himself climbing the top of the totem pole and unlocking the key to a new opportunity within the Regal View company. After reaching his goals and thinking everything is going good, things start to change for better and worse. After that is a whole different story. What'd you think on this movie, Cruz?
I gotta say, man, it was a real mind bender. But I mean, it's something that it was different, but I didn't mind it either. Boots Riley, I haven't really seen a lot of his stuff, but I really took a liking to the way he did this kind of movie. It had a little bit of a Spike Lee feel to it. I don't know if you got that same thing, that vibe. But it had a little bit of a Spike Lee feel. It's kind of like it was always on its toes. It had good pacing. I always found myself entertained. It had me scratching my head at times, like thinking about what they meant. But I came around to figure out what they meant. But I liked it. It was weird and entertaining. So I liked it. It was good.
Yeah, this movie had a pretty big cast. It had Lakeith Stanfield, who plays Cassius Green. He had Tisa Thompson, Jermaine Fowler,
My
who
girl.
apparently he's a comedian. I've never really heard of him, but he did a pretty good job. Terry Crews, Danny Glover, Stephen Yun, who you probably recognize him from The Walking Dead,
Mm-hmm.
Army Hammer,
Yes, sir.
and then some other interesting characters like Forrest Whitaker.
I
Um,
didn't even see him in there. Was he in there?
so he's in here, but we'll have to talk about that later of who he plays in this movie.
Oh, I bet you I know. Yeah, I bet you I know who it was. Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, maybe his voice or something. All right, go ahead, go ahead.
um, but yeah, the movie was written and directed by Boots Riley, who, after seeing a interview with all the cast, I found out that he was actually, or not that he was actually, but he's actually in a group called The Coop. He's a rapper in that group. I've never heard of
Really?
them before,
Yeah.
but they have a lot of records, and he had a record in 2012 that was called the same exact thing as this movie, Sorry to Bother You. And what he said was that that album was kind of his pitch for this movie. That was a way for his movie to, or the script for this movie to be kind of found and reached out to other people. So I thought that was pretty cool. He also wrote some of the music for this film. This movie is definitely very different. It's very experimental, very creative. I thought the cinematography was great. The music was great. Too bad there's not a album on Spotify or anything yet to stream because I really enjoyed the music. The
Hmm.
acting was great as well. I think Lakeith did great being the lead in this movie. Tisa Thompson was pretty good. Everyone in this movie did a pretty good part. There wasn't one character that I found annoying. Army Hammer, I thought it was if
That's
he,
funny, man.
if he were to
Funny
ever
white
put
man.
if he were to ever play a part in a movie, this is like one of the perfect roles for him. Um, and what's funny about that is on this movie, I only watched the trailer maybe once or up to three times. After that, I stopped watching the trailer. Not because I didn't like it, but because I was looking for the forward to the movie so much, I didn't want to kind of see anything else about it. So it being so long ago of me watching the trailer, I forgot of who was actually in this movie other than Lakeith. And then when Army Hammer and Steve Young pop up in these movies, it's just pretty funny to see them in it. But they did a good job.
Hmm.
For the for the most part, I really enjoyed the movie. I love seeing movies that are um, original, I guess.
Oh yeah, definitely
Um,
original. Definitely.
It's always a nice, a fresh of breath there, especially during the summer season where you see a lot of blockbusters and a lot of almost the same thing.
I mean, yeah, we've been seeing, all that's been taking up the headlines is Marvel. We've been seeing a lot of Marvel superhero stuff. It's nice to see something different.
Definitely. I find the first two-thirds of this movie really good. Very enjoying. Very experimental. And then I think the last third it kind of falls off. The way I think it ends almost feels like they were really starting to lose their not their budget, or maybe their budget could have been. But I think it just kind of starts to go downhill and it doesn't build up on what it could have kind of ended on a huge bang. It does end very interesting though, but I think it could have build on what it had created. It just kind of feels rushed, and I think the ending could have really been something more memorable than what it is, if that makes any
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
It kind of had like a Get Out feeling though. This movie, you
yeah,
kind of get
definitely.
you kind of get that feeling of the Get Out scenario almost.
Hmm.
Um, if I were to kind of describe this movie, it basically feels like if a Robot Chicken episode was made into a
Brought to life.
live a movie basically. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. I would hope everyone would set out to see this movie if you haven't already seen it, because it's really it's unique
Yeah,
and
you got to go in there with an open mind. Yeah, it's not exactly, like you were saying, it's original. It's not your typical format.
yeah, it's a big fresh of breath of fresh air. It does a lot of good things during the or throughout the movie. You really don't say, "Oh, that was bad," or you find yourself kind of checking the time to see um, what time is it or how soon the movie's going to be over, just because the movie itself carries itself very well
Hmm.
and does a very good job pacing itself. Um, then towards the end, I thought it kind of fell off just a bit. But yeah, I thought it was a great movie, and I would highly recommend this film to anyone that enjoys independent cinema and just enjoys watching a movie that's different from traditional movies. Before we get into spoilers, was there anything else that you wanted to add, Cruz?
I gotta say, I got some of my favorite African American actors in this movie, man. Terry Crews is always freaking hilarious. I'm sure some of you people have caught him on the Old Spice commercials. But it's funny seeing him with hair. I don't know, but I cracked up when I saw that.
It is
I'd never
different.
seen Terry Crews with hair.
It is different.
The other thing was Danny Glover made an appearance, and I don't know if y'all might be a little too young for Danny Glover, but Danny Glover's an actor from he made it big back in the late 80s, early 90s. Lethal Weapon. It's one of those buddy cop movies, but he always made a his line that he's known for is "I'm getting too old for this shit." And when he said it again in that movie after being so old, and I thought he had got out of acting, it was just kind of like it was funny. It was good that they gave him that. You always find that anytime he cameos, he'll do that. But yeah, man, I enjoyed it. I like seeing little stuff like that, a little attention to detail, and little added little added treats. But yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah, you get lots of treats, lots of laced treats, you might say. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed this film. Boots Riley, this is, I believe, his first film that he's written and directed. Um, Primarily because he's a artist, uh, for the most part. But now, I wouldn't be surprised if he decides to direct and write more movies, and more than
I would watch it.
I'd be more than happy to go watch another movie directed by him.
It's not bad. I mean, it would look like this guy's been doing it for a while. Like I thought he
Definitely,
did a really good job.
definitely. Yeah, like I said, it's a very well-made movie. Um, I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, open mind, guys. Open mind. That's all you gotta do. Go in there open minded.
Yeah, and that's one thing I not like when people describe a movie as it being quote unquote weird, because sometimes I feel like weird gives it a bad rep for a movie.
Yeah,
Like weird
yeah.
means it's
It's
just
weird
weird,
means
but it's weird with
yeah.
like substance. It
It's
makes
weird.
sense.
It's outside their norm, and that's what people call weird. Because when you go to a movie, you go there to escape from reality.
Mhm.
It's weird that I see a guy in underwear flying around, but I'm still gonna go watch it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, but they shouldn't. Yeah, I agree with you. Like, people should actually. That's just telling you that people aren't paying attention to it.
Right. Right. It's a very different film. It's like I mentioned, very experimental. But it does a lot of good things. It's a solid movie, and I would highly recommend this film.
Hmm.
So check it out. Uh, Now we'll get
Spoilers.
into
Spoilers.
the spoiler section of this movie. So if you
Y'all
haven't
better
watched
cover up
it,
your food, put it in
you
the
can
fridge
stay or
because it's gonna get
leave,
spoiled.
whatever you want to do. Um, I guess we'll first start with the horses,
Oh my God, the
the
weirdest part of this movie, and I say weird
Equisapiens.
because it comes out of nowhere. But
Now, were you
yeah, that is
expecting
crazy.
that? Was that kind of
Hell no, hell no. It was funny though because that is like a crackpot idea, and the guy was on a lot of cocaine at the time.
Yeah, I
Oh my
mean,
God,
I I knew and then didn't know that something was,
something was gonna
bound
pop.
to
I mean, they did a good
happen
job of
at this
hiding that.
level. Yeah,
They did good. Yeah,
yeah.
I didn't hear anything about that. That is crazy.
Yeah, the whole the way it leads up, I mean, it really gives it that Get Out vibe. This guy is now stuck in Army Hammer's mansion penthouse, and
Hmm.
he's like giving him all these offers, and then he shows him that offer of $100 million.
Gun to his stomach, by the way.
Yeah, and that offer was just funny. It reminded me of like that SpongeBob episode where Patrick like writes out his own driver's license. Um, but it was funny. Then he makes him snort the cocaine as far as an incentive of feeling good, and then he kind of breaks it all down and figures out that the cocaine is actually the chemical that
The
turns
activating
them into these
chemical.
horses.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they look. I mean, they look like horse. I don't know why they gave them that weird scientific
Equestrian.
name.
It might
Yeah,
be. I think it's a. I want to say it's Latin or something. I don't know why I'm thinking of that, but it sounds Latin. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
yeah, the Equisapiens. Um, which when when you think about it, these Equisapiens are being created to expedite the service and speed at the process that these people make the product for Army Hammer's company at Worry Free, which is another very strange company
Hmm.
that I don't know why anyone would ever work for, but it has some underlying meaning behind it. Um, but with these horses being all this powerful and mighty, you would think that they would be able to then break out of their work environment and take down like the security guards and everything, right?
Hmm.
So they're just there to, I mean, work obviously, but once they find out that they've been turned, they can obviously still think for themselves and talk. So I don't see why they couldn't kind of defend themselves and break out of the.
You gotta really think, man. Like, I'm not saying no one's thought, but I mean, I don't want to be the one to say it. Is there like some underlying race references, or is there some kind of meaning that they're trying to do? Like, I was kind of the way I look at it, and I'm just like satire at heart, but I'm looking at it like someone's putting a funhouse mirror to society and just showing us that.
Well,
I don't know. I just got that feeling. Like, is he trying to tell us something?
there's as far as the movie goes. I mean, there's definitely a lot of meanings behind this movie. There's a lot of meanings behind like big corporations. There's they talk about unions and how important they are. The white voice. So there's a lot of underlying meanings. I mean, I guess for worry free and how these people got turned into these horse beings, I guess almost like an incentive how people accept small small incentives that are very um, short time versus how they can affect the long time. So maybe a
Mhm.
potential, I don't know, dollar raise or just any small incentive a company gives you just to work for them or continue working for them because they know you won't leave because it all appears to be so good. Um, I mean, there's just a whole lot of meanings. As far as the horses go, I don't believe it was specifically for African American people, but just as
Mhm.
far as in general, how lower class or just someone looking for a job in general that doesn't have a complete not resume because someone that is lower class can have a
Not like a
um
work history. They're
yeah,
just
work history, but just
they're
someone
just
that
not well to do off. Yeah,
yeah
like people who hit it, hit rock bottom. They just need to get out.
yeah
I
so
mean, with worry free offered you housing, food, and all that stuff. I mean, you know what I mean? Like some people had no choice.
exactly. And then with them just being I mean, you don't know if even they were even forced to against their will to take this
Yeah, the drug
horse
they could have been
cocaine
told, the
thing.
same way that Cassius was told.
Exactly. Then maybe he Army Hammer's character invited them to the big meeting, and then soon as they know it, they're turning into horses. Um, but yeah, the whole um Equisapien thing was very funny.
I mean, I wasn't going in expecting weird, and I'm just like, holy crap, that is weird. That took a left turn. Oh my god.
What's also interesting about the whole like union thing is, Stephen Young's character plays a guy that basically his job is to go place to place and create these unions for people in a workplace.
Hmm.
And while I was watching an interview with the cast, he actually said that he spoke with someone that actually
That
does
did
that for
that?
a living.
Wow.
And that was I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is, and that's quite interesting
Wow, I didn't know that. That'd be
job for
something to look
someone.
into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You then have Omari Hardwick's character. So once Cassius Green becomes really good at using the white voice during his telemarketer job, he gets the promotion at Regal View that every one of his bosses has been talking to him about. Once you get so many sales, you will then be called upon to go to the floor above, which is essentially the power callers, as what they call it.
Hmm.
And
Shot
apparently,
caller.
that gives you the idea that that's gonna be a job promotion and more money for Cassius, who's obviously struggling for some money, and that's why he decided to get this job.
Works his way up to the ranks using his white voice.
And once he gets up there, he's met by a guy that's played by Omari Hardwick, which once he gets up there, everyone's using the white voice. But his name is never mentioned in the movie.
Yeah, they
It's
bleep it
just
out.
Mr. and then blank.
Beep. Yeah.
What do you think that could be, or why do you think they bleeped it out? I mean, it's obviously.
I don't know. That is weird. I wonder why. Like, why go? It means something, right? Or maybe it's.
Mhm.
I don't know. It was weird. Yeah, I couldn't get over that. Like, why not bring up his name? Or are we supposed to find out later? I don't know. It's just kind of like a Quentin Tarantino thing, like with
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, you know what you're
Mhm.
talking about. Yeah, with
Mhm.
Uma Thurman. But I don't know. They never really addressed it.
Yeah, I mean, we could try to like break down the meaning behind it. I mean, I don't think it would be something race related. I mean, it possibly could. I don't know. Maybe because the Omari is playing he's not playing an African American character. He is an African American character.
Mhm.
And I mean, once he reached the higher status quo, he is now technically quote unquote using or permanently using his white voice.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that signifies maybe he's erasing his like first name, which some people would assume it being maybe
Oh, that's deep.
like maybe
Yeah,
like they would
that's
deem it
deep.
as being like maybe slang or you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like maybe his quote unquote black name has been erased now. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind of like Kunta Kinte.
Yeah, something like that.
That's deep, bro. That's deep. I don't know, mate. I don't know. That's a good thing. I'd have to honestly, I'd have to troll the Reddits and see
Because the
like
thing
see so we could find an answer.
because the thing about that is Omari Lakeith once he gets there and then he finds Mr. Blank there is working as well. He meets another um, he's not the only black character or black person working there. There's also I saw one other lady and I guess that could also be the a meaning of kind of like the token POC or something like that. But we don't really hear any other person talk in that power color area where he
Mhm.
finds out he's not going to be selling weapons to obviously people that are interested in buying weapons across the world, whether good or bad.
Mhm.
Which is obviously that's a real job selling weapons.
Yeah.
But once he sees, he hesitates. He's like, I don't know if I could do this, man. And he starts talking in his non-white voice now. He's like, Hey, man, only white voice in here. And then eventually they both start talking in their regular voice, we'll say. But he sees his offer, and then he goes back to his white voice, which was pretty funny. Um,
There was the whitest dudes too. Those pretty good white voices.
Yeah, when I was looking at IMDb here, what's funny is Mr. Blank's voice is played by Patton Oswalt,
Yeah, that was him.
which is very funny. It's just I didn't expect that. It doesn't say who pays Lakeith's voice, I don't think. Unless Lakeith decided to do that on his own, which I wouldn't be surprised if he did because he's a great actor. But what kind of stood out to you, man, in the movie?
You know, it seemed like I felt like I was watching like your typical like your guy trying to make it, kind of like the underachiever, trying to make it through, but blaming everyone else for his problems, and
Mm.
kind of movie, even when his uncle, which was played by Terry Crews, was saying, "Hey man, it was his uncle, and he's complaining about paying rent,
Mm.
and he's just trying to pay the bills, he wasn't trying to be a dick or anything, but I like how he says, "Hey man, well I got you that car," and he's like, "Well this hunka, it's a heat." And he says, "Well, just give it back." And then he just gets quiet. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you don't want to walk,
Mhm.
like.
Mhm.
But I kind of got a feel for Lakeith's character. That he's kind of been just cruising through life, and this movie's kind of about him flowering into something else. His metamorphosis into turning into a real man, actually figuring out who he was. I guess as old as he was, figuring out who
Mhm.
he was
Mhm.
as a person. Um, but what a crazy way to find out, right? And then he ends up finding out he's a horse. It was a great movie. I enjoyed it. The comedy was not your typical, you know, funny banter or anything like that. It was a little bit like of a head scratcher to kind of get your way through this movie. You had to figure out, you had to use your brain, figure out references and social references. Um, it was a good movie. It was really well done. I don't know if anything one part stood out to me more than like the horses or or what's one that stood out with me was Tessa Thompson's art show.
Yeah.
I did not understand that one. That one was crazy.
Yeah. She says it's
Oh my
it's part of
god.
the show when she's getting stuff thrown at her
Yeah.
repeatedly.
Oh my god. But yeah, nothing really stood out for me. It was a good movie. I agree with the what you were saying. It had a feel of Get Out, and like I said, I don't know, it just felt like a Spike Lee. It has feel of Spike Lee, a little bit of the feel of Get Out, like kind of like their directors kind of collaborated with this guy, and I liked it. Like I couldn't tell that this guy hadn't been doing directing for a long time. It seemed really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially for I don't think he's done too many, has he?
What?
The director. Yeah, he hasn't done too many. So it's just like it was really good. I would check something else that he's done.
Yeah, he said that he's had this script for this movie done ever since he wrote that album in 2012. So for 6 years now, he's been trying
Whoa,
to get this movie made.
really?
Um, yeah, which was pretty interesting. I mean, in some movies, especially independent movies, from the time they're written to the time they hit the screen, it is a few years. But he's been sitting on this for quite a while, or not sitting
Hmm.
on it, but he's been working on it, trying to get it made. And it's definitely paid off. It's definitely one of the most unique movies this year, and it'll probably end up being one of my top 10 movies. I think the way this year is headed at the moment. Um,
Like one of my biggest gripes about this movie is I felt it was I keep saying it's good, but there's something I want to say it's almost there. I think this is like a first draft of a movie, and they
mm,
kind of took it. I think a second draft going over,
mm,
kind of looking at building, characters. I thought again, like you were bringing up with what's his name, Steven's character, Squeeze. Like his character that was really interesting that he goes like, from work to work creating
mm,
unions. Some of these characters had a little bit more room to develop. There's just room for character development. Even for Lakeith, I think we didn't really. I think the movie was more about a situation rather than character development. Like it just kind
mm-hmm,
of led.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, it didn't really. I don't know. I think it was missing something. So yeah, a second draft probably would have been good for this movie.
No, I completely agree. Um, there's a lot of there's one side story almost to this movie, which is where Stephen Young's character Squeeze is trying to kind of hit on Tessa Thompson's character
Ooh, yeah,
on the low, and I think that didn't really need to be in this movie. It doesn't really grow any type of stakes or
I hated that dude after that.
um, it didn't really create like a we didn't see Lakeith and Steven's character really create a
Like a bond, like some kind of like she just seemed like a tramp after she's been with Lakeith. Like she's hooking up with Steven. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean,
I didn't
it
like that. I
doesn't
didn't
just
really
create
see
any
that.
tension between the characters, and if that's what it was trying to do, it didn't really work out. I mean, I think what this movie should have done, it definitely does start to lose its charm towards the end, and it feels like the ending they kind of had to wrap up, and they said, "All right, guys, let's just make this as weird as we can make it without no substance."
Hmm.
And the way it ends is he just he escapes basically, and then he turns into the horse. What I would have liked to see was him turn into the horse and then put Army Hammer's character through hell with recruiting some of the worry-free employees and then pinning all of them against Army Hammer's character, and then going crazy and kind of, I don't know, considering this is already an already film, like
Sorry to bother you too, maybe.
completely mutilating or something Army Hammer's Steve Lift's character. And
Yeah.
that could have really given us like a bloody ending to this movie. Yeah, the ending just feels really dry and rushed.
Hmm.
And yeah, like
Yeah.
you mentioned, a lot of these characters just don't get developed the way Lakeith's character kind of gets established almost as a guy just getting by, living at his uncle's house, but
Hmm.
obviously trying to better himself in the same process. It could have ended spectacularly, but it just ends in a I can't believe that happened. Again, it's very experimental, and I enjoyed this movie. But it definitely feels something was missing, and particularly the end, because the beginning I enjoyed it. It shows his character during the interview, which was very funny. He's kind of lying about his achievements, and then he questions them enough to him to admit that he bought the trophy he brought into the interview as well as the certificate of achievement, which was funny.
Hilarious.
And then we get him in the cubbies working during the call center, and he runs into Danny Glover's character who says, "Hey, use your white voice." And that white voice part is what I think brought in a lot of people to watch this movie. And after you get the white voice,
That's it.
it
Yeah,
kind
it
of
kind of
gets
goes off the
old, you know.
handles. Yeah.
It does go off the handles, which was good and I enjoyed.
And it kind of brings me to, to wonder, did Danny Glover ever go through this? Like he had the power too, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
why not? Has he been in that position? Did he see it? Did he see Lakeith or Cassius, kind of changing and saying, "Oh man, I've been there," like he's far gone, like, again, character development. Like what like why did that guy know, or why wasn't he a better salesman?
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing it a while, and then you get Lakeith in here and like he's or Cassius, I'm sorry, and he's just like turning things upside down. So, what happened?
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if Danny Glover's character again. This is a just a breakdown of assuming possibly why he never made it up to the uh, power caller area.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a meaning for like older employees that if they get a raise or something, they're gonna expect higher payments so they can afford to pay them. Maybe I don't know, something like that. Maybe who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Only Boots knows.
Right. God, I wanna sit that guy in here and ask him some things.
Yeah, he's very
There's not a lot of he's probably like out of the spotlight, to be honest.
yeah, and I mean when I looked him up, he has a lot of records with his group, the Coop,
Mm-hmm.
which he raps in. The music in this movie was great, so I'm already a somewhat of a fan of his music because I really enjoyed that part.
And so there was another thing I noticed too, and this is just a theory of mine, but like now, and this is me watching a lot of weird movies and paying attention to weird conspiracy theories. But when he got hit in the head, that's when it seemed things turned to shit. Like everything became a little bit harder to believe.
Hmm.
So it leads you to wonder: was that a hallucination, or was he in a coma? Did he ever wake up from that? He who doesn't get a cut on their head stitched up? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of like leaves you to wonder: was this just a dream? And then after, when he wakes up, it's healed. So maybe that means something. I don't know. Like maybe he's healed now. Before he was wounded. Now he's whole. I don't
Possibly,
know.
yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
I don't know. But I thought like all after the soda can, everything went to shit.
yeah. What's so funny about that soda can is again it just symbolizes
Gets tech.
how how not gullible but how quick this world is to turn something so dumb and simple into a major trend and phenomenon.
Like I said, it's like a funhouse mirror to society, man. It really
It
over
is
exaggerates that stuff,
like
but
that
it's
game
still
show,
there. Mm-hmm.
dude. That
Get the
game show where
crap
people
beat
get
out of
the
me.
crap beat out of them. Dude, that was funny. Um, and then when he comes out covered in crap, dude, I mean, like, jeez,
Oh my God, just to get his message across. You know what
yeah,
I liked? I thought was also funny, besides the art scene, but the when he starts saying, when Army Hammer's character asks him to rap.
yep,
And he tries
another.
rapping and it's terrible, and then he starts, shouting out the N-word shit, N-word shit, you know what I mean? Like
No, that's
I thought it
another
was so funny.
obvious symbol
Hmm.
for how things work in our society nowadays. Yeah, that was a big scene there that symbolized a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, he's like, I don't know how to rap, man. He's like, come on, rap, and then they start chanting, rap, rap, rap. I was like, oh my goodness. But yeah, Forrest Whitaker's character, dude. So he was one of the Equisapiens. He was the first one in the bathroom.
Yep. Hmm.
And I did. I was going down this IMB cast list, and I'm like, Forrest Whitaker. I was like, I
I
did
can't.
not.
It sounded like, hey, can you help me, man?
I did not see him.
Doing that voice for
Yeah.
that. Oh, did you know that his company produced this movie or helped produce? That's why I think he got a cameo. Now that you mention it, I was looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah, his company, Forrest Whitaker or something. I forgot what it was called. But yeah, he helped out. Yeah, Forrest Whitaker Significant Productions.
Okay.
That's
I
probably
knew.
why he got in there.
I know.
But still, an actor like him doing that.
They had his eye and everything in there. No.
Oh shit.
No.
Oh my
What's
god.
funny is Boot Riley's character, or not character, his company is actually called Worry Free as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So he just paid a small homage to that, which is pretty cool, I guess.
Worry
Um,
free.
Now, if you were to work for Regal or Worry Free, who would you work for? You
What's
said
worry
you,
free done though?
well, Worry Free is the one that gives you the living headquarters and all that
Or
nice
Regal?
food that they talked about. Because there's Regal View, the call center.
I mean, it's essentially shoot Regal, bro. I might as well. I mean, shoot.
Prevent turning into a horse. If I had the choice,
Exa-
I'd work for neither probably.
I
But
mean, yeah, I go find something different. I'd rather work in food.
be the one making the food for
The
Worry Free.
horses.
The horse. But yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed this movie. Um, I really hope Boots in the future plans on writing and directing more films.
hmm
Because I'd be more than happy to give him my money and support more of his creations that he decides to make. Like again, I mentioned, it's very experimental. What you expect going into this movie, it's gonna be even about three notches on top of that. I really love the cinematography. I tried looking up what camera they used. Looking at it, I'm assuming they used an RE Alexa of some sort.
hmm
I love the way it was shot. Actually, one of my favorite scenes in this movie is when he's transitioning from his, we'll say, struggling stage, and then goes up to his making money stage. How his room completely changes into that upscale apartment, and everything's just kind of like transforming from like a small TV upgrades to a flat screen TV, and his bed and his lamp and his stand all upgrades. I thought that was just shot very cool. The music by Boots was great. I really enjoyed the music. The acting is pretty solid. Yeah, everyone in this movie, Terry Crews was funny, like you mentioned, with hair. Don't think I've ever seen him with hair.
Yeah,
Uh,
man.
Jermaine Fowler, who is the comedian, I've never seen him in a movie. Actually, this is his first movie, and he was a cool best friend. That's what he played. He played Lakeith's best friend, and I think he did a solid job. Tisa Thompson, she does great as always. Danny Glover, and then Steven Young's character is just the one that kind of falls short. I enjoyed him for what he was, but they could have kind of built
They
him
could
out.
have developed him a little bit more, but I mean,
And then Army Hammer, I his character was meant for Army, the rich white guy who leads
yeah,
the
the tall, pretty well built, typical white guy male who's done well for himself.
yeah. And then yeah,
Just that right amount of crazy look
sh-
in his eyes.
shout out to Forrest Whitaker as well. But I think that will do it for this movie. Any last words on it?
Go in with an open mind. That's all you gotta do. Kind of leave your expectations at the door. Try not to bring anybody that'll bring you down. Um, yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, you should definitely check this movie out. I highly recommend it. It'd be a shame if you missed it in the theaters. It just came out this past week, so you should have a few months. I'll say probably 2 to 3 months, just depending on how well it does. I do know that this weekend it did pretty well at the box office. competing. I mean, all it really had to compete with was like Skyscraper, which is a whole different story, and I don't really plan on watching it. But yeah, it's a solid film. Definitely go check it out. This week, Comic Con will be happening, San Diego Comic Con. So we will
There we go.
be discussing
Woo!
the news that
Yes,
comes out,
sir. Can't wait.
the trailers that come out. There's a lot of good stuff coming out from
Got a lot of stuff to
DC.
talk about.
We have the Venom trailers. We have
Yes,
the
sir.
Spider-Man Spider-Verse trailer, as well as the trailer for
Got
Glass.
trailer for Glass coming out. M. Night Shyamalan's trilogy.
So we'll be doing an episode on that this week, and then possibly Equalizer 2. We'll see if we do an episode on that as well.
I think it'll be worth it. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it fulfills how good the first one was. I really enjoyed that first one with Denzel Washington.
Hopefully Denzel still got it, right?
But other than that, actually, this is Denzel's only sequel he's ever done.
No, what? Really? I'm thinking about it now.
He's never done a sequel to any movie, so hopefully this sequel leaves a good taste in everyone's mouth, as well as for Denzel. But where can they find you on the social medias?
Well, you can always hit me up on my Twitter date. It's Cruiser3417 on Twitter. At Cruiser. Or actually, it's at Cruise6112. I'm sorry. It's another one. Don't worry about that guy.
That's his second account. His private account. No, you can find me at Video Josue, primarily on Twitter. But you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at entryforone. Our podcast is now available on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Play Music. If there's any other topics you would like for us to discuss, feel free to message us and we will consider talking about that. Other than that, thank you for listening.